Last week was Gamescom, and Friday night we had Star Citizen 3.0 presentation. Now, the presentation showcased Delamar asteroid base, which was fleshed out and more final than when it was first shown. It showcased various features such as the mobiGlass improvements, NPC AI, shopping for guns, real-time face rigging, voice over internet protocol, both in-game and through the game's own communication system, the Ursa rover, Constellation Aquila, and a new playable capital ship, the Idris, including Idris space combat. At the start of the presentation, they focused on the mobiGlass and showed off the redesign of its interface. Some of the new features implemented were atmosphere readings, which shows the atmosphere in which you are currently inside of, or maybe outside of. So if you're inside the station, it'll show the atmosphere with you being inside the station, and if you go outside, it's going to show you the atmospheric reading. And in the case of being on Delamar, there's absolutely no atmosphere out there. We have modular clothing, and the mobiGlass allows you to basically get changed and change your dress of clothing. So you can have items such as trousers, jackets, footwear, and a belt, and it can also be used for getting in and out of your spacesuit for when you're going outside into low atmospheric areas. The contract system has been changed. Gone are the original contracts from 2.6. They've been replaced with mission templates, which are combined to make various mission types. Taking on a mission, like an escort, isn't going to play out the same way each time, and there are going to be variations as you play out that mission. A neat feature is also you can see other players using the mobiGlass system when you're in the multiplayer game. As you walk around in the stations, you've now got the ability to adjust your speed. From slow walking to running, you can adjust it based on what you are doing in-game, just for that added immersion, such as like walking to a table or as opposed to running to the shops. The NPCs that you see roaming around the stations is completely AI driven and will continue to be improved to become more fluid in how they move around and interact in the various environments they inhabit. Examples show an AI using his mobiGlass and also an engineer performing his duties around the station. The AI isn't scripted, so it will not be acting in a predefined way, even though they will have predefined roles that they are performing. You won't see AI always walking the same path and performing the same actions in defined locations in a continuous loop. We saw Miles Eckhart again, who's a quest giver. During the presentation, they experienced a crash which forced them to have the conversation with Miles Eckhart again, and it appears that the conversation is currently unskippable for now. Whether or not it needs to be skippable remains to be seen. While 2.6 showcased weapons in shops that you could just look at visually, we can now inspect and purchase these items. An inspection gives a preview of the player handling the weapon, so we get a bit of a closer look at the weapon. We can also purchase additional ammo. We're highlighting over items in the shop displays, give a context display telling us what that item is. Ship items are also going to be available for purchase, such as shields and power generators. Buying ships themselves is not planned until a following 3.1 update. Buying ships is not going to be available in the 3.0 release. We're introduced to new face rigging technology, which they've been working on and implementing for the last year with FaceWare. This has been integrated directly into the game, where a webcam tracks facial movements to animate the face of your character. We also have head tracking, similar to Track IR. Again, that also just uses a webcam, so we can use face rigging and head tracking if you've just got a bog standard webcam. For those not familiar with Track IR, basically you move your head looking around the screen, and that adjusts the camera look from your character's perspective. So rather than mouse looking, you are looking with your own head. And it also tracks tilting your head side to side. Pretty cool. They also showcased a dedicated motion sensing device where they partnered up with Faceware. This will be an optional peripheral for those who may not have a webcam. The features of the webcam include 60 frames per second, which they say is required for the game to recognise lip syncing for when you're speaking in the game and for that audio to be synced with your lips, and also a closer viewing angle on your face so that the Faceware technology can track you better. But if you've already got a webcam which can do 60 frames per second, probably even zoom closer in your face, then you don't need to buy this new peripheral. We've also got voice over internet protocol, which is diegetic, meaning like the sound source is considered in proximity and the location to the listener, the player. So in the video, they had someone speaking back away and they naturally faded out the volume as they moved away and then increased as they come in. And then they also show stereo panning from left to right of the player while they continue to speak. Combining this with face rigging, players can appear to be talking in the game when it's combined with VoIP. It also showed in-game communication, where you could talk to players who were not in the immediate vicinity, so perhaps are on the other side of the universe. You could speak to them there. This used the render-to-texture technology, which CIG have been showing in recent videos, and this was shown working live with people talking to each other through this in-game communication system. We also get to see the Ursa rover, which they then use to board on a constellation Aquila, which the embarkation process is a little tricky at the moment as the rover tends to move around unless you switch it off. And then we got to see them travel to Daymar, where they then offloaded the rover to head off to a site so that they could pick up a black box based on the contract they picked up from Eckhart. And this showed the ability to carry cargo items, in this case a black box. They then got ambushed in the video, and from that ambush they demonstrated the use of a portable railgun and destroyed one of the attacking ships, which questionably could have also crashed into some rocks, one or the other. And we also got to see some of the damaged decals on the rover. We were then treated to the Idris, first playable capital ship in the game, which is just this massive, huge ship, and that is capable of carrying the rover and its own fighter complement. In the presentation, they did have problems getting the rover on board the Idris, resulting in the rover's demise. But they did pick up one of the other passengers from the rover, in effect, so they could complete the contract that they set out. We were then treated to some Idris combat, where we could see the Idris's primary weapon, its own railguns, along with fighters launching from the Idris. And of course, landing after the battle had finished. We also again got to see the player man turrets of the Idris and the destruction of one of the two Idrises fighting it out amongst themselves. They reran that combat scenario again, and that just gave a bit more opportunity just to see the Idris in action along with its fighters. There was no release date set for 3.0. Throughout the presentation, you could see some minor glitches and bugs that also got in the way, such as one of the players crashing out when the constellation jumped into Daymar, and they were unable to recycle the constellation, so they had to restart the server. And of course, the rover hiccup. What the presentation did show was the focus on immersion. How that will play out in the real world and not in these little scenarios that CIG scripted for us is up to everyone's imagination.